of these uprisings is that they cannot be understood in their national context. They can't be understood just through the case of Egypt or through the case of Tunisia or Yemen or Bahrain. These uprisings are regional. They are part of a regional transformation. And it's very important to understand this regional transformation in order to understand the character of the uprisings themselves. Firstly, we need to see the Middle East is absolutely central to imperialism. For imperialism, the most important region in the world is the Middle East. 40% of the world's proven oil reserves are in the Middle East. There are billions of dollars that are made every year through the sale of those oil supplies. And those billions of dollars end up, much of it, in the markets of the advanced capitalist countries, in the United States and in Europe. Okay? So the region is critical to the way that capitalism itself develops. Who controls the Middle East? Controls the world market. And this is why, for imperialism, these uprisings are absolutely critical, central to the way that they see the future of the capitalist order. And it means also that any uprisings against these dictators are also anti-imperialist. They must inevitably confront the question of imperialism and this regional order itself. After World War II, the United States became the dominant power in the Middle East. After World War II, the United States built a very close relationship with the monarchies in the oil-rich region of the Gulf. Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Bahrain, United Arab Emirates, Qatar, Oman, they built strong relationships with those states in order to secure and protect the oil supplies for capitalism at a global level. At the same time, imperialism, at the forefront of which was the United States, put in place dictators such as Mubarak, such as Ben Ali, and King Hussein, King Abdullah, King Hussein of Jordan, to protect their interests in the region. And thirdly, they relied on the State of Israel. Okay, the State of Israel being a central launching pad for imperialist intervention in the Middle East. So these three, if you like, pillars of imperialist rule in the area. They don't have a permanent contract with in stable, regular employment. So this is something very important, and a similarity, I think, here we do in the Philippines. A very large informal sector of urban poor in the large urban areas like Cairo. And this wasn't just true for Egypt, it was true across the Arab world. Okay, this similar change where people could no longer survive on the land, they had to migrate to the cities, try and find somewhere to live, happened across the Arab world. The second thing that happened in Egypt that I think is very similar to the changes in the Asian region was this program of privatization. In the Egyptian economy, again, over the last 2 years, half of the workers in the public sector lost their jobs. 50%, half of the workers lost their jobs. Many of those workers, again, went into the urban poor. They couldn't find a way of surviving. They had to move into the informal sector in order to find a way to live. So these profound transformations that occurred across Egypt and across the Arab world changed the politics of the country. Okay? We had millions of people forced off the land. Some tried to migrate overseas, some migrated to the urban areas. We had a very large growth in the informal sector. We had a very large growth in poverty. In fact, 40% of the population in Egypt live on less than $2 a day. At the same time, and again, this is very similar to your experiences here, at the same time, we have a very deep concentration of wealth in the hands of the Egyptian bourgeoisie, the Egyptian capitalist class. Okay? So the outcome of neoliberalism was a widening in the gaps between the people. On the one hand, a tiny layer of people that were making millions and millions of dollars from the privatization, from the foreign investment, from the lowering of wages, from the neoliberal project. At the same time, the other side, the majority of the population, the 99%, and this is literally true in the case of Egypt, feeling their living standards worsen, their poverty rates increase, their ability to survive become very, very difficult each day. The struggle against the dictators in the region is also a struggle against imperialism, and it must also therefore take up the question of Israel and the question of the Gulf and the oil monarchies in the region. The next part of understanding these uprisings is to see them as a reflection of the global economic crisis that began in 2008 and 2009. The crisis that happened in 2008-2009 hit the Arab world very hard. It really, partly because of the way that neoliberalism opened the region, it hit the Arab region in a very severe way. It meant, for example, that the exports from these countries to places such as Europe dropped. It meant, for example, that remittances, the money that workers received from working overseas, dropped. Okay? It meant that foreign investment into the countries dropped. It meant that food prices, energy prices went up. So all of these things, which were results of the global crisis of 2008, hit the Middle East and particularly the countries of North Africa in a very severe fashion. And this is critical to understanding why the uprisings occurred at that particular time. So to recap what I've said, to emphasize these 3 points again. The first thing is the uprisings are not just a question of the dictator and the repressive rule. It's also a question of economic neoliberal transformation, the economic changes in these countries. Secondly, these uprisings are not just a national question. They confront imperialism, they confront the way that imperialism, particularly US imperialism, has built its power in the Middle East. And thirdly, they reflect the global crisis that began in 2008-2009. These 3 features, the political and economic, the regional, and the global crisis, are central to understanding why these uprisings occurred and the nature and importance of these uprisings.